Well, I mean, what drew me to crime fiction? It was the only thing that I was interested in at the time. I thought the only thing that was exciting was there were writers coming through like James Lee Burke and James Elroy, James Crumley, and some who weren't called James as well. And it was just a really vital and exciting time. These were writers who seemed to be engaging with the society that they lived in. You know, and I recognised that. I could recognise that in their work, but it wasn't just reportage. It was, you know, these were lyrical stylists who had chosen to work in a specific genre, and I absolutely loved that.
If any of you have not read Anne Sexton's poetry, I can hugely recommend it. They've recently reissued it. There's a newish edition, I think, from Penguin Modern Classics, and she was profoundly bipolar, and she was also a mother, and that really interested me, that interplay between creativity, periodic madness, and the obligations forced upon you by motherhood. Yeah. And I find it a really, really interesting territory, and if anyone is interested in pursuing that further in a more scientific way, I can hugely recommend the books of an American psychiatrist, Kay Redfield Jamison, who wrote an amazing book called Touched with Fire, which is a study precisely of the interplay between madness and creativity. And she looks at the lives of creative geniuses over the centuries. And in many cases, she retrospectively gives them a diagnosis of some kind of mental illness.
Literary Heroes is one of the authors I mentioned just now, Vivi Francis, because she's a writer who I sat through a week-long residency with her, and my writing changed remarkably afterwards. She had a way of seeing you. So in terms of somebody who I feel gave me back my agency, she was great for that, and her writing challenges me to always do better and aim for better. Toni Morrison, for all the obvious reasons, she opened doors for so many people. She wrote the way she wanted to write. She didn't care whose gaze was popular. And Maya Angelou as well, because she kept, whenever a door closed, she opened another one. She didn't stay beaten.
Let's say I'm a client and I've come to you and I have a real problem with writer's block. Plenty of authors claim they suffer from writer's block. Is there a book you could prescribe that would help writer's block, do you think?
I think a really good one for that problem is I Captured a Castle by Dodie Smith. Because, for one thing, it captures the joy of writing really beautifully. I don't know if you have read it recently.
Absolutely love it. It's one of those books I go back to regularly just to remind myself.
Good. So it's partly very much reveling in the joy of writing in a very obvious way. And you can see Dodie Smith becoming a writer in a way while she's writing it. And it is about, it's a coming of age as a writer book. But there's also a cure within the book for writer's block, which is, I'm not going to tell you what it is, you have to read it. But, her father, the heroine's father in the book, is a frustrated writer who's had this massively successful book published, and then he's had writer's block for the last 8 years. And so they're rattling around in their wonderful castle where they live, and everything's slowly falling apart and going wrong. And the family take it upon themselves to find a way of making him write his novel.
Circling back to the subject of books, reading and being able to hand a grandchild or a library child a book is an act almost of, well, it's of empowerment, but it's also potentially subversive as well, because you sense that in your mind, as in mine, books are full of power. And
Yes. Well, all dictators know that, don't they? That's why they burn books.
yes.
That's why books get banned.